Many businesses have become disillusioned with international sales as old markets become saturated and new ones must be found. How will they adapt their products to meet the needs of new markets? Which products will consumers desire? With astute international competitors breathing down their necks, many organizations believe the game isn't worth the trouble. The author asserts in this powerful essay that well-managed companies have shifted their emphasis from customizing items to offering globally standardized products that are advanced, functional, reliable, and low in price. Multinational corporations that have focused on idiosyncratic consumer preferences have become perplexed and unable to see the forest for the trees. Only global corporations will achieve long-term success by focusing on what everyone wants rather than the specifics of what everyone thinks they might like. Technology is a powerful force driving the world toward convergent commonality. It has democratized communication, transportation, and travel. It has made isolated areas and impoverished people eager for the allures of modernity. Almost everyone, everywhere wants everything they've heard, seen, or experienced through new technologies. As a result, a new commercial reality has emerged: the emergence of global markets for standardized consumer products on previously unimagined scales. Companies that are geared toward this new reality benefit from massive economies of scale in production, distribution, marketing, and management. They can decimate competitors who still live in the crippling grip of old assumptions about how the world works by translating these benefits into lower global prices. National or regional preferences are no longer differentiated. Gone are the days when a company could sell last year's models, or less advanced versions of advanced products, in developing countries. And gone are the days when prices, margins, and profits were generally higher in other countries than in the United States. Market globalization is nearing completion. With that, the multinational commercial world, as well as the multinational corporation, comes to an end. The terms multinational and global corporation are not interchangeable. The multinational corporation operates in several countries and tailors its products and practices to each, at high relative cost. The global corporation operates with steadfast consistency, and at a low relative cost, as if the entire world, or major regions of it, were a single entity, selling the same things in the same way everywhere. Which strategy is superior is a matter of necessity rather than opinion. The constant drumbeat of modern possibilities to lighten and improve work, raise living standards, divert and entertain is carried everywhere by global communications. The same countries that ask the world to recognize and respect the uniqueness of their cultures demand that modern goods, services, and technologies be transferred to them wholesale. Modernity is not just a wish, but also a widespread practice among those who cling to ancient attitudes and heritages with unyielding passion or religious fervor. Who can forget the televised scenes of young men in fashionable French-cut trousers and silky body shirts thirsting for blood with raised modern weapons in the name of Islamic fundamentalism during the 1979 Iranian uprisings? Thousands of Brazilians swarm daily from pre-industrial Bahian darkness into exploding coastal cities, where they quickly install television sets in crowded corrugated huts and, next to battered Volkswagens, make candlelight sacrificial offerings of fruit and freshly slaughtered chickens to Macumban spirits. During Biafra's fratricidal war against the Igbos, daily televised reports showed soldiers carrying blood-stained swords and drinking Coca-Cola while listening to transistor radios. In the remote Siberian city of Krasnoyarsk, where there are no paved streets and news is censored, Western tourists are quietly approached for cigarettes, digital watches, and even the clothes off their backs. Even the thriving underground trade in modern weapons and their military mercenaries pales in comparison to the organized smuggling of electronic equipment, used automobiles, Western clothing, cosmetics, and pirated movies into remote areas. 1,000 suggestive ways attest to the pervasiveness of the desire for the most advanced things the world manufactures and sells, goods of the highest quality and dependability at the lowest possible price. The world's needs and desires have become inextricably linked. This renders multinational corporations obsolete and global corporations unrivaled. Living in the Technological Republic. The monumental trilogy The Americans author Daniel J. Boorstin described our era as being driven by the Republic of Technology, whose supreme law is convergence, the tendency for everything to become more like everything else. This trend has pushed markets toward global commonality in business. Automobiles, steel, chemicals, petroleum, cement, agricultural commodities and equipment, industrial and commercial construction, banking and insurance services, computers, semiconductors, transportation, electronic instruments, pharmaceuticals, and telecommunications are just a few examples. The sweeping gale of globalization is not limited to raw materials or high-tech products, where standardization is facilitated by the universal language of customers and users. The transforming winds of communication and travel proletarianization enter every crevice of life. Nothing confirms this more than the commercial success of McDonald's from the Champs-Élysées to the Ginza, of Coca-Cola in Bahrain and Pepsi-Cola in Moscow, as well as rock music, Greek salad, Hollywood movies, Revlon cosmetics, Sony televisions, and Levi jeans everywhere. High-touch products are as common as high-tech products. Starting from opposite ends of the commercial spectrum, the high-tech and high-touch ends gradually consume the undistributed middle in their cosmopolitan orbit. Nobody is immune, and nothing can halt the process. As the world's preference structure is relentlessly homogenized, everything becomes more and more similar to everything else. Consider Coca-Cola and Pepsi-Cola, two globally standardized products that are sold everywhere and welcomed by everyone. Both successfully cross a wide range of national, regional, and ethnic taste buds that have been conditioned to a variety of deeply ingrained local preferences for taste, flavor, consistency, effervescence, and aftertaste. Both sell well everywhere. Cigarettes, particularly those made in the United States, are also making year-on-year inroads into markets previously dominated by other, mostly local, blends. These are not unusual examples. In fact, if it weren't for artificial trade barriers, their global reach would be even greater. They exemplify a broader trend toward globalization, as well as how businesses distribute, finance, and price their products. Nothing is immune. The products and methods of the industrialized world play a single tune for the entire world to dance to. Ancient differences in national tastes or business practices vanish. The commonality of preference inevitably leads to the standardization of products, manufacturing, and trade and commerce institutions. Small national markets transform and grow. Success in global competition is dependent on efficiency in production, distribution, marketing, and management, and it inevitably becomes price-focused. The most effective global competitors build superior quality and dependability into their pricing structures. They sell the same products in all national markets that they do at home or in their largest export market. They compete on the basis of appropriate value, the best combination of price, quality, dependability, and delivery for globally identical products in terms of design, function, and even fashion. That, and little else, explains Japan's brisk global success in a wide range of products, including steel, automobiles, motorcycles, hi-fi equipment, farm machinery, robots, microprocessors, carbon fibers, and, more recently, textiles, as well as intangibles such as banking, shipping, general contracting, and, soon, computer software. Neither are high-quality and low-cost operations incompatible, as a slew of consulting firms and data engineers argue. The data presented is incomplete, incorrectly analyzed, and contradictory. In reality, low-cost operations are the hallmark of corporate cultures that demand and produce quality in everything they do. High quality and low cost are not diametrically opposed positions. They are compatible, superior practice twin identities. 2. To say that Japanese companies are not global because they export cars with left-side drives to the United States and the European continent while Japanese cars have right-side drives, or because they sell office machines through distributors in the United States but directly at home, or because they speak Portuguese in Brazil, is to misinterpret a difference for a distinction. The same is true for the Safeway and Southland retail chains, which are successfully operating in the Middle East, as well as for native and imported populations from Korea, the Philippines, Pakistan, India, Thailand, the United Kingdom, and the United States. National traffic laws differ, as do distribution channels and languages. Japan is distinguished by its relentless pursuit of economic and value growth. This translates into a push for high-quality standardization. Model T is vindicated. Customers will prefer a company's world-standardized products if it forces costs and prices down while pushing quality and reliability up while maintaining reasonable concern for suitability. At this point in globalization's evolution, the theory holds true, regardless of what conventional market research and even common sense might suggest about different national and regional tastes, preferences, needs, and institutions. This theory has been repeatedly validated by the Japanese, as has Henry Ford's Model T. Most importantly, their imitators have included firms from South Korea, television sets and heavy construction, Malaysia, personal calculators and microcomputers, Brazil, auto parts and tools, Colombia, apparel, Singapore, optical equipment, and, yes, even the United States, office copiers, computers, bicycles, castings, Western Europe, automatic washing machines, Romania, housewares, Hungary, apparel, Yugoslavia, furniture, and Israel, pagination equipment. Of course, large corporations that operate in a single country or even a single city do not standardize everything they manufacture, sell, or do. Instead of a single product version, they have product lines and multiple distribution channels. Even within metropolitan areas, there are differences at the neighborhood, local, regional, ethnic, and institutional levels. Although companies customize products for specific market segments, they understand that success in a world of homogenized demand necessitates a global search for sales opportunities in similar segments in order to achieve the economies of scale required to compete. A search like this works because a market segment in one country is rarely unique. It has close cousins everywhere because technology has homogenized the world. Even small local segments have global equivalents everywhere and are subject to global competition, particularly in terms of price. The global competitor will strive to standardize its offering across the board. It will deviate from this standardization only after exhausting all options to keep it, and it will advocate for its reinstatement whenever digression and divergence occur. It will never assume that the customer is a king with complete knowledge of his own desires. Companies that lack a clear global focus and are unconcerned about the economics of simplicity and standardization are increasingly in trouble. In a rapidly changing world, the most vulnerable companies are those that dominate relatively small domestic markets with high value-added products that have smaller markets elsewhere. With transportation costs proportionately low, distant competitors with goods produced more cheaply under scale-efficient conditions will enter the now protected markets of those companies. No matter how small the territory, global competition means the end of domestic territoriality. When a global producer offers lower prices internationally, its customer base grows exponentially. It not only reaches distant markets, but it also attracts customers who previously preferred local preferences but now succumb to the allure of lower prices. The standardization strategy not only responds to globally homogenized markets, but also expands those markets through aggressive low pricing. The new technological behemoth taps into an age-old desire to stretch one's money as far as possible. This is a universal need, not merely a motivation. The hedgehog is aware. The difference between the hedgehog and the fox, Sir Isaiah Berlin wrote when contrasting Dostoevsky and Tolstoy, is that the fox knows a lot about a lot of things, whereas the hedgehog knows everything about one great thing. The multinational corporation is well versed in many countries and easily adapts to perceived differences. It willingly accepts vestiges of national differences, not questioning their transformation, and failing to recognize how the world is ready and eager for the benefits of modernity, especially when the price is right. The approach of multinational corporations to visible national differences is medieval. The global corporation, on the other hand, knows everything about one great thing. It understands the critical importance of being competitive on a global as well as a national scale, and it works constantly to drive down prices by standardizing what it sells and how it operates. It considers the world to be made up of a few standardized markets rather than many customized markets. It actively seeks and works hard for global convergence. Even though it sells top-of-the-line, high-end products, its mission is modernity, and its mode is price competition. It is aware of the one great thing that all nations and peoples share: scarcity. Nobody accepts scarcity, everyone desires more. This explains some of the division of labor and specialization of production. They allow people and nations to improve their circumstances through trade. Usually, the median is monetary. Money has three distinct characteristics, according to experience: scarcity, difficulty of acquisition, and transience. People understandably regard it with awe. Everyone in the increasingly homogenized global market wants the same products and features as everyone else. If the price is low enough, they will accept highly standardized global products, even if they are not exactly what one's parents said was appropriate, what immemorial custom decreed was correct, or what market research fabulists claimed was preferred. The unalterable truth of all modern production, whether of tangible or intangible goods, is that large-scale production of standardized items is generally cheaper over a wide volume range than small-scale production. Some argue that computer-aided design and manufacturing, CAD, CAM, will enable businesses to produce customized products on a small scale, but at a low cost. However, the argument misses the point. A company can serve the world more economically if it treats it as one or two distinct product markets rather than 3, 4, or 5 product markets. Why are there still differences? Cultural preferences, national tastes and standards, and business institutions are all relics of the past. Some inheritances die gradually, while others thrive and become mainstream global preferences. A good example is so-called ethnic markets. Chinese cuisine, pita bread, country and Western music, pizza, and jazz are all available. They are market segments that have global proportions. They neither deny nor contradict global homogenization, but rather confirm it. Many of today's product and feature differences between nations are the result of multinational corporations' respectful accommodation to what they believe are fixed local preferences. They believe their preferences are fixed, not because they are, but because of rigid habits of thinking about what is. The majority of executives in multinational corporations are unthinkingly accommodating. They mistakenly believe that marketing entails giving customers what they say they want rather than attempting to understand exactly what they want. As a result, corporations continue to rely on high-cost, customized multinational products and practices rather than pushing hard and effectively for global standardization. I am not in favor of ignoring regional or national differences. However, sensitivity to such differences does not imply that a company ignores the possibility of doing things differently or better. There are huge differences, for example, between Middle Eastern countries. Some are socialist, while others are monarchies or republics. Some derive their legal systems from the Napoleonic Code, others from the Ottoman Empire, and still others from British common law. All, with the exception of Israel, are influenced by Islam. Doing business necessitates obsessively personalizing the business relationship. During Ramadan, business discussions should begin after 10 p.m., when people are tired and full of food after a day of fasting. A local partner is almost certainly required. A local lawyer is required, as in New York, and irrevocable letters of credit are required. Yet, as Coca-Cola's senior vice president Sam Ayoub noted, Arabs are much more capable of making distinctions between cultural and religious purposes on the one hand and economic realities on the other than is generally assumed. Islam is compatible with science and the modern world. Globalization barriers are not limited to the Middle East. The free transfer of technology and data across European common market borders is hampered by legal and financial barriers. In addition, neighboring European countries are opposed to radio and television interference, pollution. However, the past is a good predictor of the future. Barriers to superior technologies and economics have always fallen with persistence and appropriate means. There is no recorded exception where reasonable efforts to overcome them have been made. It is primarily a matter of time and effort. A lack of global imagination. Many businesses have failed miserably in their attempts to standardize global practice by exporting domestic products and processes with no accommodations or changes. Their flaws have been used to demonstrate bovine stupidity in the face of utter impossibility. Advocates of global standardization see them as examples of execution failures. In fact, poor execution is frequently a contributing factor. More important, however, is a lack of courage, a lack of imagination. Consider the case for fully automatic home laundry equipment in Western Europe at a time when few homes even had semi-automatic machines. Hoover, Limited, whose parent company was headquartered in North Canton, Ohio, was a major manufacturer of vacuum cleaners and washing machines in the United Kingdom. The large washing machine plant in England operated far below capacity due to insufficient demand in the domestic market and low exports to the European continent. More of the company's semi-automatic or automatic machines needed to be sold. How to conduct a creative analysis. An imaginative analysis of automatic washing machine sales in each country in the Hoover case would have revealed that 1. Italian automatics with small capacity and size, low power, no built-in heaters, and porcelain enamel tubs were aggressively priced and gaining large market shares in all countries, including West Germany. 2. The best-selling automatics in West Germany were heavily advertised, 3 times more than the next most promoted brand, were perfectly suited to national tastes, and were by far the most expensive machines on the market. 3. Italy, which had the lowest penetration of any type of washing machine, manual, semi-automatic, or automatic, was quickly moving to automatics, skipping the pattern of first purchasing hand wringers, manually assisted machines, and then semi-automatics. 4. Detergent manufacturers were just starting to promote the cold water and tepid water laundering techniques that were then popular in the United States. The growing success of small, low-powered, low-speed, low-capacity, low-priced Italian machines, even against West Germany's preferred but highly priced and promoted brand, was significant. It contained a powerful message that was lost on managers who were firmly committed to a distorted version of the marketing concept of giving customers what they say they want. In fact, the customers stated that they desired certain features, but their actions demonstrated that they would accept other features if the price and promotion were right. In this case, it was clear that, under the circumstances, people preferred a low-priced automatic over any type of manual or semi-automatic machine, and certainly over higher-priced automatics, despite the fact that the low-priced automatics did not meet all of their expressed preferences. By purchasing the simple, low-cost Italian machines, the supposedly meticulous and demanding German consumers defied all expectations. People were clearly influenced by automatic washer promotions. In West Germany, the most heavily promoted Ideal machine also had the largest market share despite its high price. Customers were clearly influenced to buy by two factors: low price regardless of feature preferences, and heavy promotion regardless of price. Both factors aided customers in obtaining what they desired most: the superior benefits provided by fully automatic machines. Hoover should have aggressively sold a simple, standardized, high-quality machine at a low price, as evidenced by the 17% variable cost reduction made possible by the removal of £6,100 worth of extra features. The suggested retail prices may have been less than £100. The extra funds, saved, by avoiding unnecessary plant modifications would have funded an expanded service network as well as aggressive media promotions. Hoover's media message should have been, "This is the machine you, the homemaker, deserve to have to reduce the repetitive, heavy daily household burdens so you can spend more constructive time with your children and husband." The promotion should have also targeted the husband, ideally in the presence of his wife, to instill in him a sense of obligation to provide an automatic washer for her even before he purchased an automobile for himself. A low price, combined with heavy promotion, would have overcome previously expressed preferences for specific features. The Hoover case exemplifies how the perverse practice of the marketing concept, combined with a lack of marketing imagination, allows multinational attitudes to persist even when customers desire the benefits of global standardization. The entire project got off to a bad start. It inquired as to what features people desired in a washing machine rather than what they desired in life. Selling a product line that is individually tailored to each country is irrational. Managers who took pride in fully implementing the marketing concept did not actually do so. Hoover asked the wrong questions and then gave answers with no thought or imagination. Such businesses are analogous to the ethnocentricists of the Middle Ages, who saw the sun revolving around the earth with everyday clarity and offered it as truth. Copernicus, like the hedgehog, interpreted a more compelling and accurate reality despite the lack of additional data. Except with the intervention of the mind, data do not yield information. Except for the intervention of imagination, information does not yield meaning. Acceptance of the unavoidable. For better or worse, the global corporation accepts that technology relentlessly drives consumers toward the same common goals: relief of life's burdens and expansion of discretionary time and spending power. Its function is vastly different from that of the typical corporation throughout its brief, turbulent, and remarkably diverse history. It orchestrates the twin vectors of technology and globalization for the benefit of the entire world. This role was created not by fate, nature, or God, but by the necessity of commerce. Two industries in the United States became global long before they were consciously aware of it. The United Steelworkers of America had not called an industry-wide strike since 1959, after more than a generation of persistent and acrimonious labor shutdowns. The United Auto Workers had not shut down General Motors since 1970. Both unions recognize that they have become global, and that closing down all or most of U.S. manufacturing would not exclude U.S. customers. The market is supplied by overseas suppliers. Cracking the Western market code. Since the marketing concepts theory emerged a quarter century ago, the more managerially advanced corporations have been eager to offer what customers clearly wanted rather than what was simply convenient. They've established massive marketing departments staffed by professional market researchers that are often exorbitantly priced. They have also expanded an extraordinary number of operations and product lines, highly tailored products and delivery systems for a wide range of markets, market segments, and countries. Notably, Japanese businesses operate almost entirely without marketing departments or market research, as is common in the West. Yet, in the words of General Electric Chairman John E. Welch Jr., the Japanese have cracked the code of Western markets, despite coming from a small cluster of resource-poor islands with an entirely alien culture and an almost impenetrably complex language. They have done so not by looking at markets with mechanistic thoroughness, but rather by searching for meaning with a deeper wisdom. They've discovered the one thing that all markets have in common: a strong desire for dependable, world-class modernity in all things at aggressively low prices. As a result, they provide irresistible value everywhere, attracting people with products that market research technocrats described as unsuitable and incompetitive with superficial certainty. The greater a company's global reach, the more regional and national preferences for specific product features, distribution systems, or promotional media it will encounter. There will always be some tolerance for differences. However, the widely held and often unthinking belief in the immutability of these differences is generally incorrect. Evidence of business failure due to a lack of accommodation is frequently evidence of other flaws. Take, for example, Revlon in Japan. By selling world-standardized cosmetics only in elite outlets, the company unnecessarily alienated retailers and confused customers. Then it attempted to recover with low-priced, world-standardized products in broader distribution, followed by a change in company president and distribution cutbacks as costs rose faster than sales. The issue wasn't that Revlon didn't understand the Japanese market. It simply didn't do the job right, wavered in its programs, and was impatient. In contrast, despite the vociferous warnings of local trade groups, the outboard Marine Corporation used imagination, push, and persistence to collapse long-established three-tiered distribution channels in Europe into a more focused and controllable two-step system. It also decreased the number and variety of retail outlets. As a result, customers received better credit and product installation service, as well as significant cost savings and sales advances. SmithKline Corporation used 35 wholesalers instead of the 1,000+ required by established practice in its highly successful introduction of Contact 600, the timed-release decongestant, into Japan. Daily contacts with wholesalers and key retailers supplemented the plan, which also violated established practice, and it worked. Due to a lack of access to established distribution institutions in the United States, Komatsu, a Japanese manufacturer of lightweight farm machinery, entered the market through over-the-road construction equipment dealers in rural Sunbelt areas where farms are smaller, soil is sandier, and labor is easier. In this case, inexperienced distributors were able to attract customers based on Komatsu's product and price suitability. A combination of product reliability and quality, strong and sustained support systems, aggressively low prices and sales compensation packages, as well as audacity and implacability, circumvented, shattered, and transformed very different distribution systems in cases of successful challenge to prevailing institutions and practices. There was admiration instead of resentment. Even in the age of microprocessors, some national differences remain unyielding. Almost all microprocessor manufacturers in the United States test them for reliability using a system known as parallel testing. Japan favors a completely different sequential testing system. As a result, Teradyne Corporation, the world's largest manufacturer of microprocessor test equipment, produces two lines, one for the United States and one for Japan. That's simple. What Teradyne finds more difficult is determining how to organize and manage, in this case, its marketing effort. Companies can organize themselves by product, region, function, or some combination of these. A company can have separate marketing organizations for Japan and the US, or it can have separate product groups, one working primarily in Japan and the other in the US. A company may service both markets with a single manufacturing facility or marketing operation, or it may use separate marketing operations for each. If the company organizes by product, questions arise. Should Teradyne's Parallel System Group, whose main market is the United States, sell in Japan and compete with the group focused on the Japanese market? How do regional groups divide their efforts between promoting the parallel versus the sequential system if the company is organized regionally? How does a company get commitment in marketing, for example, for one line over another if it is organized by function? There is no one consistently correct answer, no one formula for obtaining it. There isn't even a reasonable alternative. What works well for one company or location may fail for another in the same location, depending on their capabilities, histories, reputations, resources, and even cultures. The Earth is a sphere. The differences that persist throughout the world despite globalization confirm an ancient economic dictum. What happens at the margins, not at the core, drives things. Thus, in ordinary competitive analysis, what matters is not the average price but the marginal price. What happens at the interface of newly erupting conditions rather than the usual case. What happens at the cutting edge is what matters in business. The underlying similarities of what is happening now to national preferences at the margin are most striking today. These parallels at the cutting edge combine to form an overwhelming, pervasive commonality everywhere. The persistence of economic nationalism, protective and subsidized trade practices, special tax breaks, or restrictions for domestic producers, as a barrier to market globalization is a valid point. Economic nationalism has a strong hold on people. However, as with the current nearly seamless internationalization of investment capital, the past does not shape or predict the future. Reality is not a fixed paradigm dominated by ancient customs and derived attitudes, oblivious to powerful and abundant new forces. The world is becoming more aware of modernity's liberating and enhancing possibilities. The persistence of inherited varieties of national preferences rests uncomfortably on mounting evidence of, and dissatisfaction with, their inefficiency, costliness, and confinement. The historic past, as well as the national differences in commerce and industry that it spawned and fostered everywhere, are now relatively easy to transform. Cosmopolitanism is no longer the exclusive domain of the intellectual and leisure classes. It is quickly becoming the established property and defining feature of all sectors worldwide. It gradually and irresistibly dismantles the barriers of economic isolation, nationalism, and chauvinism. What we are witnessing today as escalating commercial nationalism is simply the last violent death rattle of a defunct institution. Companies that adapt to and capitalize on economic convergence can maintain market distinctions and adjustments. In business, as in physics, persistent differences in the world are consistent with fundamental underlying commonalities. They frequently complement rather than oppose each other. Matter and antimatter exist in physics and coexist in symbiotic harmony. Although the Earth is round, it is best to treat it as flat for most purposes. Space is curved, but not in a way that is useful for everyday life on Earth. Divergence from accepted practice occurs all the time. However, the multinational mind, warped by years of blunders and transnational problems, now rarely challenges existing overseas practices. It frequently regards any deviation from inherited domestic routines as mindless, disrespectful, or impossible. It's a bygone era's mind. The successful global corporation does not shy away from customization or differentiation to meet the needs of markets with varying product preferences, spending patterns, shopping preferences, and institutional or legal arrangements. But, as we saw in the cases of Outboard Marine in Europe, SmithKline in Japan, and Komatsu in the United States, the global corporation accepts and adjusts to these differences only reluctantly, after relentlessly testing their immutability and trying in various ways to circumvent and reshape them. There is only one significant way in which a company's global activities matter, and that is in what it produces and how it sells. Everything else stems from and is dependent on these activities. The goal of business is to acquire and retain customers. Or, to use Peter Drucker's more refined phrase, to acquire and retain a customer. A company must be committed to the innovation ideal, offering better or more preferred products in such combinations of ways, means, places, and prices that prospects prefer doing business with the company over others. Preferences are constantly being formed and reformed. Huge variety constantly asserts and thrives within our global commonality, as seen in the world's single largest domestic market, the United States. However, as the world becomes more homogeneous, modern markets expand to reach cost-cutting global proportions. With improved and less expensive communication and transportation, even small local market segments that were previously shielded from distant competitors now feel the pressure of their presence. Nobody is immune to global reach and unstoppable economies of scale. The world is shaped by two vectors, technology and globalization. The first influences human preferences, while the second influences economic realities. Regardless of how much preferences evolve and diverge, they eventually converge and form markets in which economies of scale lead to cost and price reductions. The modern global corporation stands in stark contrast to the aging multinational corporation. Instead of accommodating superficial and even entrenched differences within and between nations, it will rationally seek to impose suitably standardized products and practices on the entire globe. They are exactly what the world will accept if they are also low in price, high in quality, and blessed in dependability. In this regard, the global company will behave exactly as Henry Kissinger described Japan's continuing economic success in years of upheaval. Voracious in its collection of information, impervious to pressure, and implacable in execution. Given the purpose of commerce everywhere, the global corporation will shape the vectors of technology and globalization into its great strategic fecundity. It will systematically push these vectors toward their own convergence, simultaneously offering everyone high-quality, more or less standardized products at optimally low prices, achieving vastly expanded markets and profits for itself. Companies that do not adapt to new global realities will fall prey to those that do. Like, subscribe, get notified.